Hi, welcome back to Book Buzz with Jan and Payne, a podcast where we talk about romance books, our current reads, and we also have the pleasure of sitting down with some of our favorite authors and chatting with them about their amazing books.
So I think I've always said how I love young adult books. Well, it depends. It always depends. I usually go towards the young adult bully romance.
Yeah.
And I know you are always like, well, I don't read young adult, but
I do once in a while, but I don't really tend to pick those up.
Well, see, to me, I think nowadays it depends on the author. If I know how the author writes, then I'll totally pick it up because I've no shade or anything, but I know I've read some books that I've seen online. I'm just like, they weren't really my type. So I'm sticking to the authors that I've read before and that I love how they write young adults. I stick to those. So it's very to me, it all depends. So the author that I absolutely pick up without a doubt and who we have the pleasure of having on our podcast today is New York Times bestselling author Monica Murphy. I love her books. She writes, she's written some, her holiday books are adult books. I think mostly she writes a lot of YA. Or she writes a lot of college romance. But I think it's YA, which I love. She is a must pick up author for me when it comes to that. She wrote the Kind Hand series, which I loved. She wrote the College Years, which is more of a coming of age because they're in college, which we're gonna talk. I cannot wait. And she also wrote The Things I Wanted to Say, which is I consider it a bully dark romance.
Yeah.
So she writes a variety of things, but mostly is YA, and I absolutely love her. I pick up her books. I don't even think about it. I'm just like, oh, new book, gotta read it. So it's an honor and pleasure of having her with us today. So we hope you guys enjoy today's podcast and sit back, relax, have some coffee, and let's get to it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Monica. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. How are you, ladies? And I'm thrilled to be here. So thanks for having me.
We're doing good. It's such an honor to have you here. I feel like I've mentioned your books on every single podcast that we do. And I talk about how I'm not going to lie. I've talked a lot about Diego, a lot about Eli. And so it's going to be really fun talking to you about the senior, because I have questions about the senior and I can't wait to dive into that. But tell us a little bit about how, you're preparing for the release. Are you excited for people to finally read the senior?
I am. I'm super excited. I worked really, really hard on this book. The original version, what you read, Jan, is completely different. It's not completely different. But I changed a lot of it just because I want this to be really special. There's so many Eli and Ava fans out there, and I wanted it to hit right. You know what I mean? I needed their story to make sense. I know it's frustrating at times, but I think they are probably some of the most frustrating characters I've ever created. They're very similar in the way they behave. They're both stubborn. And so I had to take out a lot of that stubbornness because it started to feel repetitive. And I really wanted to hit an emotional point at the end. And I feel like I succeeded. If I go back and read that ending right now, I will cry. Yeah. And so, and I don't always cry at books that I write. Sometimes I almost feel like I have no heart sometimes, but that one, that one really hit me. So did the sophomore. I cried when I wrote the ending of the sophomore too. So I don't know, but yes, I'm really excited. I never expected I would go back to Eli, but I did. And I have zero regrets about it.
Can you describe a little bit of how your typical writing day is like?
Well, I mean, I try to stay on a certain schedule, but sometimes I get distracted. I mean, I wake up, I do my thing, I have coffee, I check my email. Sometimes I'll work on like kind of like administrative stuff first, and then I'll eventually write. But I try to get in a certain set of words every day, depending on how my deadline is and how much I've procrastinated. I'm a lot more steady than I used to be in getting my words in because it's just so much easier. But like I write for most of the morning into the afternoon, and then I might do a little more admin stuff and then I'm done. So I just keep a steady pace every day.
And how did you get into writing? Like, how did you come up with that first book plot? What brought it into where you're like, okay, this needs to be a book. I'm going to go ahead and write it.
Well, I've been published since 2006 under my other pen name, 𝐅𝐸𝐸. So I have been at this for 15 years. I always loved to read. As a kid, I loved to read so much. I discovered romances because my mother had a whole bunch in the hall closet growing up. And so I'd sneak them out and read them. I feel like that's so many people's way of first discovering is through a parent or a grandma or whatever. And so I always kind of thought I wanted to write, but I would write scenes, but I wouldn't like write a whole book. And so after I had my third child, I thought, oh, I have time. I don't know what I was thinking because I had, two babies and an 8-year-old. And I decided I'm going to try to pursue something for real. So, I mean, I can't necessarily, it's been so long now, say just reading is what spurred me on, but I don't know what like sparked the first idea for some of the stuff I worked on in the first years of my career. I just always loved words. So I think that's
on your pen name. Did you write romance too? Because I've never known that you've had a pen name before.
Oh, here's what's so funny. My name is actually Karen, but I'm not a mean Karen. I'm a good Karen. 𝐅𝐸𝐸𝐸 is my maiden name. So that's how I started. I wrote for a variety of the digital publishers that were really popular in the late 2000s into the early, 10s. I wrote for Sam Hain. I wrote romance. I even had a couple of things out with Avon, Alora's Cave, Karina Press. I mean, most everything like Sam Hain, Alora's Cave, gone. Mostly like erotic romance and then contemporary romance. Oh, I wrote for Entangled. I have some Brazens, sports heroes, football, NFL playing guys. Yeah.
I'm gonna need that list.
Yeah, right. Like the Game Fort series is still out there on Entangled. And that was one of my favorite series I wrote at that time. I loved writing those books. Those guys were so fun. I'll have to send you that list, Jan.
Yes.
And then what happened is that I started reading new adult. So like Hopeless by Colleen Hoover, anything by Jessica Sorensen, Abby Glines, all of those books. And I'm just like, I want to write something like this. And then I got the idea for One Week Girlfriend for Drew and Fable. And I had stashed away the name Fable for years. I knew I wanted to write someone named Fable, a heroine. I just didn't know how. And so then I decided to use that name. And then that book took off. It did better than anything I ever wrote as Karen. So I was just like, oh. And then it just kind of stuck. So, I mean, there was a few years there where 13, 14, 15, I maintained both pen names, and I don't really publish as Karen anymore. I just stick with Monica. It's too hard. It's really hard to maintain two pen names. It's a lot of work.
And it's funny that you mentioned Jessica Sorensen, because I feel like from what I've seen, I don't feel like a lot of people have read her books now. I don't think she released a lot of stuff. I have to say, I think I went into the romance community because of her and her Caden and Callie series. And I love that you mentioned her, because I feel that people need to read that series ASAP.
I totally agree. She is one of the original, new adult people that really crossed over and broke out, like I think it's the consequences of
Yes.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that book just killed me. Hopeless killed me. Abby Glines made me so mad. Is Falling Too Far with Rush.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm looking at the percentage, it's like 98%. And I was like, this book is not done. Like, she's leaving us on a cliffhanger. I was so angry, but it was so good. Like, those early books were so good.
It's so funny you're like mad about cliffhangers, but really your cliffhangers? Really?
I know. I'm sorry. I know, I got so mad at it. And then I wrote one with girlfriend and people were emailing me like, I threw my Kindle across the room. Like, I'm sorry. I guess I learned from a master, Abby Glines, right?
I remember when you were writing the first Eli and Ava book, and you're like, I just can't fit it all into one book. And I finished the first one. I was like, she is so evil. And I am so mad. I was crying. I was like, I cannot believe she ended it in this part. So it's very funny that you say that, because really your cliffhangers are the same.
Well, see, if I can lose myself, it's hard when you are a writer for so long to lose yourself in books. You start to critique in your head. You don't mean to, I think it's just natural because we critique our own words. But if it's such a good story that you can lose yourself in, I mean, that is the best feeling. And I will say that Julianne's Fisherman series is the duet, is what I lost myself in here recently. Oh, I love those books. They were so good. Anyway, shout out to Jewel.
And when you're not writing, what do you do when, on a normal, I'm going to take a break from writing. What do you do when you're not in that mindset?
I try to spend time with my children. They're all getting older, and they're, my youngest is a senior in high school now. So I hang out with them as much as I can, try to spend time outside. I sound like an old lady, but I got my roses. I like to go clip my roses and take care of them. I like to read. I'll watch movies. Before the pandemic, we liked to travel. We don't travel as much, of course. I don't know. I just like to chill out, go hang out with some friends, go, do lunch, whatever.
It's funny because I feel that when the pandemic hit, I was like traveling all the time. I was always in California. I went to California.
I remember, yeah.
I was like, where was this before the pandemic? And
right. I had in 18, I had decided that 2019 was going to be my travel year. I did a lot of signings. I went to France and Italy. I'd never been to Italy before. I did the Rare signing in Rome. That was amazing. I did all this stuff. I'm like, wow, I feel so lucky to do all this travel. And then the pandemic hit, and I'm like, I'm so glad 2020 wasn't my travel year. Like, yeah. I feel really lucky that we did that. I think back of some of the things that we did and on the crowds of people and just how different things are now.
Oh, yeah. Do you have any signings coming up for you?
I will be at Book Bonanza next year.
Yay!
Yeah, excited about that. I said I would go to Paris Rare. I think that's still happening. I don't know. That's in April. Oh, I'm going to do Banff, Canada. There's a signing there and it looks so beautiful. And I've never been to Canada before, so I'm excited to do that. That'll be fun.
That sounds interesting. I know I'm trying to convince Spain to do signings with me. I was like, we should go. We should travel.
Yeah, totally. They're fun. Have you been to one before? You've been to signings?
Not me.
You need to go. I know Jan has, because I've met her at them. But yeah, no, you should go. They can be overwhelming though, with like crowds and whatnot. And especially now, I feel like we're all a little more wary because of the pandemic too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ooh, people.
Yeah. Well, I went to one a couple months ago here in Dallas, and
how was it?
It was, I was nervous because you don't know what to expect. Like you said, you had this over a year, the pandemic, so you don't know what to expect, but it was actually very refreshing. It's new because of the distancing and everything, but but it felt so good being in that atmosphere again. It was scary, but it was, new normal that you have to get used to nowadays. So it's
Yeah. My daughter had a normal graduation in June, and it was so nice to go to that. Like, it was outside and there was all kinds of people. And at first you could tell everyone's kind of like, but and then, once we relaxed, it was just nice to feel relatively normal, to be with a big group of people. So I get what you're saying. It'll be nice to go to a signing again, see book people again.
Well, I'm so excited to meet you and see you in Book Bonanza. It's gonna be so much fun.
Yes, I'm excited too. That's always a good one. That's always a great signing.
Yes.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
So how do you develop your plot and your characters?
Well, I would say that I'm character driven more than plot driven. I mean, I'll occasionally get the idea for a plot, but usually the characters come to me first. I don't like to plot too much because I think it takes all the fun out of it for me. So I'm what they call a pantster. Like, you fly by the seat of your pants. You just write with no real plan. Like, I like to have an outline. And when I've written for traditional publishers, like they make you write a synopsis and explain everything. But I would always tell my editor, point A and point Z, I'll get there, but I might deviate my route on the way. Like, I always like to say, if you're surprised as a reader when you're reading one of my books, it's because they surprised me as I'm writing it, like the characters. I talk about them like they're real.
They're real here.
They are. They feel real. I appreciate that.
Because like for the whole Callahan series, you had Close to Me, Falling for Her, Addicted to Him. How do you come up with your titles in general? Like, Things I Wanted to Say, that title for me was perfect. How do you come up with your titles for your books?
Okay, so like in regards to the Callahans, Close to Me came to me first. Life is so funny. Like, you have an original plan and you get it tossed right out the window after a while. So Close to Me, I stole that from the Ellie Goulding song, Close to Me. I loved that song. I loved the title. I like song titles, and thank God they're not copyrighted. So then we can use them. So I took that from that, and I was going to originally write a duet for Ash and Autumn Callahan. And it was going to be Close to Me and Meant to Be, because it rhymed, right? I'm like, okay, that works. It's 3 words. And then, Nina Grinstead, my publicist, she's like, well, don't you think Jake Callahan deserves a book? I'm like, oh.
Nina, you ruined the duet.
She did. She ruined the duet. But that's okay. So then you got Jake. And then Brittany, who used to work with Valentine PR, Brittany read the Friends series, and she's like, I love this Eli Bennett character that you have in here. I'm like, I always loved him too, but Nina would never let me do anything with him because she loved Jordan Tuttle. So then I'm like, what if I brought him into the Callahans? And so that's how he got in there. And then there's Jan, who's like, don't you think Diego deserves a book? I'm like, no, he's a jerk. He's like the villain. So see, you would have never got Diego if we would have never had Falling for Her. So then we have to thank Nina for stopping the duet, because then you got your Diego, Jan.
I still would have liked that duet, but I'm so happy we got Diego, because he is like, he's my main one.
Right. Like, the only reason that book exists is because of you pushing it. Then you'd make your edits and I'd share them, and everyone's like, what's this book? Who's this? What's this? I'm like, oh.
I remember when I finished Meant to Be, I was like, Diego should have, his own book. And you're like, no, it's not. I'm already plotting the next book. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make an edit for what I would want to see if he had his book. And I remember people were like, when is this book coming out? They were like, is it out yet? I was like, well, it's not really a book, but tell Monica you want a book.
Right. And then I was nervous writing it because like it's not an easy subject. It's teenage high school pregnancy. Diego is not the nicest guy. I had to give him real motive to why he behaved the way he does. And so I mean, it was really well received though. I got a lot of really great reviews and people, enjoying the book despite him being a villain, despite I mean, how romantic is a teenage pregnancy? Like that's something that we don't really tackle in the romance world too much. So yeah. And then like right after, and then one of my daughter's friends admitted that she was pregnant. I was like, oh dang, I feel like I'm making real life, happen. Anyway, so that was a whole thing. But yeah, I'm glad I wrote Diego's book. Yeah.
It was epic. Loved it.
Thank you.
Still hoping, down the road you do his brother. Every villain has a story.
It was worse than Diego. I can't do it.
So for the things I wanted to say, how did you come up with that title?
Okay, yeah. So do you guys ever see the website We Heart It?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I have a thing over there. I used to love it. And there were so many cool quotes, photos, whatever, great stuff to inspire me for story ideas. And so there was a journal that was made, like they took one of those, either just like a black journal or like one of those, those composition books you buy for like 25 cents at the beginning of school. And they taped over like a piece of paper with things I wanted to say, but never did as the title. And I'm like, oh, I'm totally going to use that. But I saved that title for years, kind of like I saved the name Fable for years. And so I remember telling Hong, my cover designer, this was years ago, I want to write a book, but I have no idea what it's about. And this is what I want the cover to look like. She's like, that sounds amazing. So then I stashed it aside because I never could come up with something. And so I don't know what inspired me to write. I can't think of. I knew I wanted to do a prep school and I wanted to do a jerk. And then I found that picture of Zach Cox and I'm like, there's my jerk. And I'm like, I'm going to use that title. So yes, I just saved it. I saved it for years. I love that title. I think it's a great title. But what's funny is none of us can ever say it right. Like I can't say it right sometimes. I used to always call it things I meant to say. And Nina's like, I don't think that's right. And then she always messes it up. Everybody messes it up. And you know what? That's okay. It's long. It's a long title. So
it's things I wanted to say, right?
Yep. You said it right. Things I wanted to say, but never did.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that never did.
I don't always add that because I mean, how many more words could this title be? Like it's really long.
But I was telling Payne, because I feel like you write a lot of YA. The college years was more coming of age because they were in college, but it was you writing this book, Things I Wanted to Say, was very different. Loved it. It was darker than I think if any of the books that you've read, like that you wrote. And was very interesting to see you take those characters on the road that you did. It was surprising. Loved it. I remember when I read it, I was like on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my God, he's such an a-hole. I hate him, but I love him at the same time.
He's terrible. I would think as I wrote it, oh God, should he say this? Yes. Like, like anytime I doubted it was always like, oh yeah, no, he should totally say that. It was fun to do something different, something darker. I have written darker. As Karen, I would write a lot of erotic romance in my earlier years. If you read, I wrote a duet for Random House, Never Tear Us Apart and Never Let You Go. That's kind of dark. It's not so much dark in the sense of sexiness. It's more dark in the subject matter. So, I mean, I can go dark. I will be going darker for the most part of all of 2022. It's almost all Lancaster all the time in 2022. Yes, there is backstory coming out early in the year, and then I'm releasing. I'm not really mentioned it, but people have found it. I think you found it, didn't you, Jan? My Callahan wedding. Yeah, I'm doing a novella.
I am like on top of your books. I saw it on Amazon. I was like, I'm sorry, what is this?
Right. Yeah, I had to put that up because I wanted to put it as a pre-order in the back of the senior. So I just put it up, but I didn't really mention it yet. So yeah, I have plans, just not revealing those plans yet, but I have plans.
I'm like dying.
So there's a couple of Callahan things still left to wrap up, but for the most part, it's a Lancaster year and a Perry Constantine year from the Midnight Dynasty. So I'm excited for that. Yes, for sure.
So going back a little bit, how do you deal with poor reviews?
My books aren't for everybody. Not everybody can love your stuff that you put out there. Sometimes when I know that I missed something in a book or I did something that doesn't sit right with me, and then when bad reviews or lower reviews come out and say, well, this, I didn't like this part, I'd be like, yeah, you're right, I didn't really like that either. Like sometimes they're right, like I messed up on something and they'll call me out for it and they're right. I can admit where I can screw up sometimes, but they're just part of the business, and I try not to let them bother me. Everyone is entitled to their opinion and they don't have to love everything that I write, and that's okay. I don't love everything that other people write or movies or TV shows or whatever. Sometimes, we all have our own opinions, so it's okay.
And do you read reviews? Like when the book releases, do you read reviews, or do you don't focus on that?
I mean, I will read them at first. Like I'm always nervous when a book goes out. I'm just like, oh my God, I hope people love it. And so I'll read those early reviews, and then I'll read them like when it's first available for purchase. But then after a while, I don't really read them, only because first of all, it takes a lot of time if there are a lot of reviews. And second of all, I mean, I know some people who can really spiral. A bad review will send them spiral right down, and then they're just so unhappy. And I just, sometimes, a lot of people will say that like reviews are for reviewers and we shouldn't step in as authors and be like, there's no way I would ever argue with a bad review. My gosh.
Mm-hmm.
But like, reviews are for reviewers.
Yeah. And because I know you've written a lot of series, mostly they're standalones, but they're interconnected. Like you meet them in the previous book, family, it goes from generation to generation. How do you keep things in your series fresh for the readers and also for yourself, so it doesn't feel like everything's happening, the same thing's happening over and over again?
Right. No, I totally agree with that. So last year when I was writing the Callahans and the dating series, I would alternate between each book. And so that really helped me keep things a little fresher, because then I'm doing a different style. Dating series is more contemporary romance, sexy, characters in their 20s, maybe even in their early 30s. And then Callahan's, of course, was high school set. I mean, I have so many stories in my head from what my kids shared with me. I've mentioned this before elsewhere, but being a cheer coach for a few years at a high school, that'll give you plenty of drama to store if you're a writer for later. So, I mean, there's just such a variety of people, kids at a school and the different ways that they would behave and things that they do. So, it was harder this year writing the college years, because I pretty much wrote that series straight through, pausing in the middle of it, wrote out of order. Like I finished things I wanted to say before I finished the sophomore, and the sophomore came before things I wanted to say. So, and that was kind of like my palate cleanser from writing the college years books. I don't know. I just try to make everybody have their own personality, so then things happen in a different way. If you just write the same thing again and again, I get bored, the reader gets bored. It's hard.
And what's harder for you to write in the because your books are dual point of view.
Yeah.
Is it easier writing the female's point of view or the male's point of view?
I mean, I would say overall, here's what's so funny for me. Overall, it's usually I prefer writing in the male point of view.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that though?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Some females I don't mind. Like for the most part, I don't mind writing as a female. In things I wanted to say, I wrote mostly in Summer's point of view and only had Wit's point of view in there every once in a while. And I really enjoyed being in her head. It was a trip being in his though too, because he's just so awful. But I don't know. I guess maybe their voice just comes easier to me. I really don't know. I've not really thought about it. I don't know. I'm no help.
What is the most surprising things that you discovered while writing?
Just anything in general?
Yeah, anything in general.
I mean, I don't know. Like I love writing, and then you have all of these different characters in your head. Sometimes you can start to feel a little nuts because it's fun to be able to create whole worlds, and it's fun to discover that you're capable of that. Like if you're talking about like interesting facts or anything like that, I mean, shoot, I can't even think of anything. All I know is that I think that my like Google searches are so weird that I'm sure that if something happened to a family member and they suspected me for like doing something bad, I could maybe get in trouble for that. But like lately it's nothing major. It's like, my character and Making Her Mine that I'm writing is like, she plays volleyball. So I'm constantly like making sure I'm getting all the volleyball terminology right. Like you have to do these things where, otherwise you don't have any major interest in it. Yeah. Okay. I've watched volleyball games. It's cool. But then you got to like, make sure you're going to describe everything correctly. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I can't really think of anything right now in regards to your question, just beyond you're always learning different things every day. It's weird, the things that you have to research sometimes as a writer.
From all your characters, because I love your heroes.
Oh, thank you.
Diego and Eli have to be my favorites. Jordan Toodle was phenomenal. I remember he's always going to be special to me because he was the first hero of yours that I read.
Okay, yeah.
So he's always going to be the special one in my heart. But I know your readers have their own favorites. Like Nina loves that Tudor, it's hers. Like can't fight her on it.
No, she loves Jordan Tuttle.
Yes. So who is your favorite? Like, do you have a favorite hero?
I mean, yeah, a lot of the time my favorite is whoever I'm writing at the time. Mm-hmm. So, which is good because that's what you want. If I'm loving him, then I really hope that translates over into the page, and then the reader will love him too. I have special love for Drew Callahan because One Week Girlfriend changed my career, changed my life, truly. Like they transformed my whole writing career. So I have mad love for him. I love Eli Bennett. I love him because he's so ridiculous and it is fun. And I've known teenage boys who are like that. They are ridiculous. But there's something fun and lovable about them too, Shep from Fair Game. I love Shep Prescott. He is so egotistical. Jordan Tuttle. I love Jordan Tuttle. See, I have a whole list. Jordan Tuttle is actually that name. You've heard the story, right, Jan? Like that is a real name of a real kid that my kids went to school with. He works at the Starbucks nearby.
Like you're in a book.
Right? So awkward. And I'll tell Nina, I'm at Starbucks right now. Jordan Tuttle's here. She's like, do not take a picture of him. I don't want to know what he looks like. I don't want to know anything. So I love to tell her, like, I saw Jordan Tuttle today. He's like, shh.
So for Jordan, he's your readers love him. He is amazing. Loved him. Why do you think he's such a beloved character?
Jordan? because he's a big old mystery. I think that's what a lot of it is. He was a mystery to me. I didn't mean for him. This happens to me all the time. I did not mean for him to become a main character in the series. He was supposed to be a walk-on, just the guy that had the parties and everybody, oh, we're gonna go to Tuttle's house. Because that's how everyone referred to the original Tuttle, is that in school, everyone just called him Tuttle. Like the teachers called him Tuttle. And I thought that was so funny. And my daughter would tell me this. And I'm like, I like that name. I want to use it someday. And so then I used it and he started talking to me more. And then Amanda came on the page and I'm like, oh, those two. I just think it's because he's a mystery, but he also, you could tell that he just longed for her so much and she was completely oblivious to it.
But he made some decisions too that maybe you just want to smack him sometimes.
Well, they got to do stupid stuff, right? Like they can't be perfect. It's more real.
Like I remember when I read it, because I read the first book, and then when I read half of the book, and I remember I read a review that said how they had met at the party, and I was like, I'm really curious. Like it feels like I'm missing part of the book, and then I didn't realize you had done like a prequel to that.
Yes.
Party. So I went back and read that first, and I was like, now everything makes sense. But I remember when I read it, he was very, like you said, he was very mysterious. Like you wanted to know what was in his mind, but he wouldn't give anything away. But he was also hard-headed. And I know you wrote a book of them later in the years.
Yes.
Would you ever go back to
I don't know. Probably not, because I feel like their story's pretty complete, like, yeah, I probably wouldn't like give them their own book. No.
Why did you decide to give them an extra book though?
Nina wanted it.
Which broke my heart.
Yeah.
My heart.
Yeah, Nina wanted it, and I was like, okay, that's a good idea. Like I'll admit this, that was during a time where I was going through some burnout, and so it was a struggle to find new ideas too, and so I didn't mind revisiting those characters because I did enjoy writing their stories. So it was like, okay, I'll do that. But yes, I did struggle with burnout during that time as well. So
I'm gonna tell Nina, hey Nina, you should talk to Monica to do like a holiday novella, and Jordan and Amanda.
she'd be like, okay.
So you did mention a little bit how you don't remember what inspired you for things I wanted to say, but I remember you did say that Sylvie is gonna get a book.
Yes.
And Perry Constantine will be with that Lancaster world.
Yes.
Will you be writing any more books besides
Sylvie's? Yeah, I do plan on writing. I think the younger sister is going to also get a book too, Carolina, where she's gone. Like she's mentioned, but she's never on the page and things I wanted to say. And so I think in Sylvie's book, I'm going to introduce her into the story as well. And she will eventually get her story. And I have an idea for her story, but I'm not going to reveal it. Huh? So yeah, and then Perry Constantine is going to be with a Lancaster. She's a cousin. So she is cousins with Whit and his sisters. Like her dad is Whit's dad's brother. And so it's like a power merger between Constantine and Lancasters because it's an arranged marriage story. Mm-hmm. And so Perry is going to have to marry Charlotte Lancaster. And so, and Perry's not happy about it. So it's going to be fun. I start that next. I will probably start that next week. So yeah.
I love Perry so much. So I'm glad you picked up Perry because I seriously, things I wanted to say was actually my first book by you.
Right. Yeah.
And I was really shocked as to how I love the book. look, I think I told Jan, I didn't think Wit redeemed himself because he was really a huge a-hole.
Oh,
And
huge.
so, yeah. So I didn't think he redeemed himself, but I still love him. So will the Perry series be dark, like how Things I Wanted to Say?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be as dark because, I mean, since you know Perry and he is a little lighter, like his brother is terrible. Winston
Yeah.
is awful. So, but so to me, that tells me, and their mother is not that great either. Like it's a dark family. And so I feel like there is darkness in Perry. Like it's there. It has to be, right? So he's light and happy-go-lucky and whatever in a lot of the books. And I don't know, did you guys read Lessons in Sin, Pam Godwin's?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, and then he comes and rescues his sister. He's a good brother. And so, but this is what I discussed with Sky Warren when we were discussing, you know, talking about it. I said, everybody, all the Constantines, like the mother, Caroline tries to control everybody and they all do what they want anyway. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I want you to do this. I want you to marry this person, or I want you to do that. And they're like, and then they just go and they do their own thing. And so Perry is the mama's boy. So Caroline is going to tell him, you have to marry this girl, and he's going to do it because he's the mama's boy, but he's going to do it reluctantly. And to me, like Charlotte is she's going to be a bit of an odd duck. She's going to surprise him in how she behaves and who she is. Yeah, I'm kind of excited because I've never really written a heroine like this before, but she's going to be a little different than what I normally do. So hopefully it works.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
My Kindle is ready when you are, Monica. Going back a little bit to your Cunningham series. That series came up from a spinoff from Drew and Fable's series. So I know you went from, like we mentioned earlier, you do a series to where they're each a standalone, but they're also either a spinoff or, you know, generation from generation. When you wrote the Cunningham series, how did you come up with the college years? How did you know that it was still going to follow that group of friends, plus Ava coming back to get another book?
So here's where I admit that how things happen and then how things don't work. And then you have to make a shift and a change. So Callahan's was born because of Drew and Fable's kids. I'm so glad I gave them a lot of kids because then it turned into a series, right? And as I wrote the series, so originally I never planned for Eli and Ava to have 2 books within the series. Like, was it the smartest move to have a duet in the middle of a series? I don't know. I mean, it worked. Readers loved it. So I am glad for that. I never planned to give Beck a book, but here I am writing Beck's book now. So what was really going to happen for the college years, because I got a lot of response while writing the Callahans, is Caleb going to get a book? Is Tony should have a book. Readers wanted the friends to have books. And so I thought, well, why not just spin it off and put them all into college and then do it that way? So originally the freshman was supposed to be Diego. He was supposed to be the freshman.
I remember that.
Yes. The cover was for the new college years, that image that I used for his book, all of it, we were ready. And then as I'm writing the book, and more than half of it still happens in high school, Nina and I discussed it, and I'm like, I don't feel right in calling this the college years. I don't think it's right. So then I added him to the Callahans, even though he's not a Callahan, but that's okay. And then moved it to where Tony became the freshman and went along those lines. So that's how that series came along. I just knew I wanted to have the friends. And whereas I don't know if you guys really have read my dating series. Well, I know Pang hasn't, but that's okay. So the dating series, I really worked on the female friendships in that series. And I think it was nice to do during the pandemic. I got a lot of reader response who told me, I feel like I'm hanging out with my friends with this group. I miss my friends, and these books are nice because I feel like I'm in my friend group. And so with the college years, I tried to have it be more of like a bromance, like all the guys taking care of each other and being good friends. And so that was a lot of fun to do that with them. I just wanted to keep everybody there. And then it allows readers to still have glimpses of the Callahans too. Specifically, not so much Ava, but I mean, you can throw Eli in there as a Callahan, but I mean, Eli's there in every single book. He's there and he's saying what he's saying and doing what he's doing. So that was kind of fun.
But I feel that it's so funny for him, like when you're reading the senior, and if you read his books before in the previous series, he's a very hard-headed character. Like he's stubborn, he's hard-headed, and it's like it's what he wants. He doesn't see anything outside his bubble. But I feel like when we would see him in the other books, it was very funny to me how he would give advice, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, but you don't need advice.
But isn't it always easier to give advice, but then not follow? Yeah. It like
easier said than done.
It totally is. He's hard-headed and he's impulsive. He'll just do and say whatever he wants, and then he gets himself in trouble. So, yeah, haven't we all known people like that?
How was it planning the senior? Like Eli and Ava are going to close off this series, and I know I saw you, and I know you told me too how you had this planned out from the start.
I did.
How was it keeping that a secret and also building up everything? Because you did say he does come out in every book, but I feel that every appearance leads up to where he's at the senior.
Yeah. And so I tried to do that. I tried to do that for all of them, minus Tony, who just kicks it off. You can't really do that since he was the first one. But like I tried to show everybody. I tried to show Jackson leading up to what he did. I really tried to show Caleb leading up to what he did for the junior, because, you know, he had to get all that out. For Eli, I needed to show steps of how hard it was for them. You know, I never thought about it until I started reading reviews for the senior, but everyone's right. Eli and Ava's relationship, they weren't together a lot. They were a year apart in school. She goes, you know, at different high schools, then she goes to a different college. Like they don't spend a lot of time together. And I'm like, oh, I was mean. Like I kept them apart a lot. So, I mean, that's a struggle. Like he is busy in doing what he's doing and she's busy in doing what she's doing. And I think that people, especially at that age, would struggle. And that's why when we discussed, because I really bounce all my ideas off Nina a lot of the time. And when I told her that's what I wanted to do, and she's like, you should write them another book. I said, yeah, but I'm going to break them up. And she's like, oh, I said, I can't write a happy book. I can't, it's like, that's boring. I have to break them up, and they got to work for it to come back together. And so, yeah, that's why I did what I did. I did always know I was going to write Eli as a senior. I made it seem like a mystery and I didn't know what I was going to do. But this is where I will admit that when it comes to the junior, it was to the last minute. Truly, I didn't know who I was going to give him as the heroine. I went back and forth.
I think we were all curious who he was going to end up with. I was like, who is it? I was so nervous going, because I trust you. I know whoever he ends up with, that's who he's supposed to be with. But I was very curious to who you were going to pick.
I mean, I truly went back and forth. And then my final thought was Bailey. It really was. And then I had a few people tell me, then that'll be the same story as a sophomore. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Ellie, all she wanted was Jackson. And he was just like, whatever. So it would have been the same thing. And I'm like, oh, then it has to be Gracie. So that's why.
But she was perfect for him.
No, I love that book. I almost love that book the best out of the four. I love the senior and I loved writing it, but it was also hard for me sometimes because I needed to make sure it would be a certain way. Mm-hmm. The one that probably gave me the most joy to write would be Caleb's book. It was easy. it was fun to write them.
I remember when I was reading his book, when I got like, he's very sarcastic, and I'm just like, everything that comes out of his mouth, I'm just like, what are you thinking? Like, what's like, really? Which was
Silly.
hilarious. But I remember when I was reading the book and I got towards the end, I was shocked because I never saw that. I thought the senior was going to be about somebody completely different.
Oh, yeah.
And I never expected you to do that. And
that was my plan. So it worked.
You were like, don't tell anybody.
I did. I'm like, this is secret. You have to keep your mouth shut. And you did. You did good, Jan. Thank you. That's right.
What's next? I know you spoke a little bit about what's coming up for next year, but Beck's book is next, correct?
Yes.
After the senior. What can we expect from his book?
I mean, it's high school set. Callahan's is mostly high school set, so that's why I kept Beck in high school. He's a nice guy. So, and he longs for Addie. That's like, and she's oblivious. She's blind. And so it's about that. It's about their friends. I've introduced all new people in there, and I'm just like, oh God, I'm setting myself up for
get ready for is he getting a book?
Right. There's someone who's not very nice. So Jan, you'll probably love him.
I love a bad boy. So.
Right. So you'll be like, is he gonna get a book? There is another romance is happening during the time, like one of Addie's friends is with somebody. So that's kind of running concurrently together. And yeah, it's just them trying to figure out if they can actually make it, like they're friends. And so it makes her nervous to go past the friendship stage. She doesn't want to ruin anything where he's just like, I don't care. Let's go. So anyway, it's been good writing it. I'm almost done.
Is this part of the Cunningham series, or is this going to be a new standalone, maybe spin-off series?
I mean, I don't have any plans to write another series off this. Mm-hmm. It could happen. I don't know. I mean, stuff happens. So I never say never. Like people will ask me about certain characters or books, and I'm just like, I have no plans at this time, but I don't say, no, I'm never doing that, because sometimes, like a couple of years later, you're writing a book about, Tuttle and Amanda. So I don't like to say never, but it is part of the Callahan series. It's the 6th book in the series, and minus the novella it's the final full-length book in the Callahan series.
Well, I'm super excited. And I blame you, to be honest, that people keep asking you for books, because you write these side characters that are so amazing. And so it's your fault.
I guess it's all my fault. I only have myself to blame.
So it's been an honor to have you here talking to us. And like I said, loved the senior. I'm so excited for what's to come next year. I am so excited for Bags and everything that's to come. And I'm so ready for more of your dark world.
Yes. I'm excited about that. I'm excited for Perry's book. I'm excited to write Sylvie's book. I have a whole plan for her book, and it's bonkers. So just be prepared. Like, it can't be the same as like Wit's. Like, how can I match Wit? Like, he is his own self. Like, I can't match him. But Sylvie is interesting all on her own.
And I've said this to Payne. For her, I loved Wit. He was mean, but I loved him. But with Sylvie, I don't know. I'm very curious about her, because I feel that she did her wrong in things I wanted to say. And
she did.
And I told Pam, I really cannot wait until she redeems herself, because I feel like we didn't see her redeem herself in things I wanted to say. So I'm very, very excited for that.
I agree with that. And I blame a lot of her actions on her mother. Like, her mother has controlled her entire life. So Most of her issues are because of her mother. So not that that's an excuse, but that's just that's my thought process for that character.
Mhm.
She's been under her thumb since pretty much the day she was born. She's named after her. So,
Yeah. Will we see that dynamic between her and her mom in her book?
Yes. And Sylvie will have to stand up for herself and become strong and become her own person. That is the goal.
Oh.
Can we know a little bit about who's her hero?
It's gonna be Spencer. It's gonna be the guy that she was with at the school. So like, but other things are gonna happen. Like my plan is, and this could all be tossed aside, so take it as you will, but I want it to be kind of a past and present type of book.
Mhm.
So we will see things in the past and then we'll be in the present. So they won't be the main, part of the book. They won't be in high school. They'll be older.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I am putting her with him. I just think that makes sense.
Mhm.
He's been very supportive of her, even though we don't know how. I don't even know how yet. We will find out.
It's going to be a surprise for everyone.
A surprise for everybody. Yes, indeed.
Well, like I said, it was such an honor to have you here. And before we let you go, we want to play a game with you that we call How Well Do You Know Your Books? So
Oh, no.
Some quotes from Goodreads, and we're going to read them to you, and then you're going to see if you know which book that quote is from.
Okay.
All right. So
bring it. Let's go.
I shut myself off to make life bearable. I'm like a damn machine sometimes, unfeeling, uncaring, emotionless.
That is Drew Callahan.
Yes.
Girlfriend.
There's no doubt in my mind he's attracted to me. That's not our problem. And that's actually my favorite quote from this book.
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
You want to guess, or do you want me to tell you the book?
Say it again.
There's no doubt in my mind he's attracted to me. That's not our problem.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know.
It's Save the Date.
Ah. I wasn't even thinking along those lines. So
okay, the next one. Money protects you, insulates you. Those who win in the game of life always win when they have the most money.
I mean, that sounds like something that Wit would say, but maybe not.
It was.
Okay. Yeah.
The next one. Love should be earned, and once earned, it should be considered precious, a gift. You give it away too freely, and it becomes meaningless.
Oh my gosh, that's a good quote. I'm proud of my own words. I don't remember who that is. I'm bad at this game, and it's my own thing. What was it?
It's from Close to Me.
Okay. That was nice. I like that.
Oh, I like that quote.
Right? And I'm like, oh, that's my own quote. Yeah.
Okay, two more.
Okay.
I thought we were done, destroyed. I guess I was wrong, and I've never been happier to admit a mistake in my life.
I'm wondering if that's Eli Bennett. No, yes, nope. Shoot, I don't know. I'm really bad at this game.
Fighting for you.
Oh. I should have known that one. I should have known you'd pick
Joss. I had to add Joss in there.
Yes. She's in Making Her Mind, just to let you know, because Addie is her little sister. So don't forget that.
I know. I love them. I'm like,
right.
They're my everything. Last one.
Okay.
I'm not a chill dude. I can't wait for things to happen to me. I'm the one who's always making it happen.
Oh, that is Eli Bennett.
Yeah. You're like, I know him.
I know him. He is not a chill dude. So yes.
But thank you so much for joining us today, Monica. And I'm so excited
Thank you for having
for
me.
everything that's to come. And I cannot wait for Drew's book.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you guys having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you
I'm
so
bad at
much.
my own game, but anyway, yes.
And these, you like some of your own quotes, though.
Yeah. For sure.
Thank you so much. And we hope you have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks, ladies. Happy Halloween.
you.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 Thank you so much, Monica, for joining us today. And you guys, I am not a young adult reader. I don't really read young adult, but the way how Monica talks about her books makes me really want to read it. I just need to find time because all her, yeah, like there's like too many books for me to catch up to because I've only read one book from her, but I had so much time just sitting here listening to her talk about her books because when an author loves their books and when they put their time into it, when they put effort into it, and just seeing her love her books and makes me really want to read her books, even if it's YA. And so it was definitely an honor to have her here on our podcast today. If you guys haven't read her books, go check out her books.
The senior does go out tomorrow, so make sure you pick it up. It is phenomenal. You're gonna love it. It is perfection. And I say that because Eli and Ava are perfection to me. It is a standalone, so if you can read it without reading the rest of the college years, but I really, really, really recommend you read Addicted to Him and Meant to Be. That way it hurts so much more when you read the senior because you get to experience how they got together, what happened, their history, everything they go through, because there's some stuff mentioned in the senior that you're going to be like, what does that have to do with it? So definitely pick up those other two books. You trust me, you guys are going to love it. It is phenomenal. The senior is going to take you on a roller coaster, but you're going to love it. Monica does such a phenomenal job on delivering and making you feel what their characters are feeling. So definitely pick it up. You're going to love it. It does go live tomorrow. So make sure you pre-order it, pick it up, and then let us know what you think of it, because I'm very curious. I want to know if you guys cried how I cried, because I was bawling. But definitely pick it up. It's a must read. You're not going to want to miss it.
In case you missed it, we did announce our next author interview, and I am so excited for this one. 𝐅𝐨𝐥𝐥𝐵 is going to be on our podcast. Can someone please pinch me? There's no one here to pinch me, but I'll pinch myself. Like, I am so excited to talk to 𝐅𝐨𝐥𝐥𝐵 about all of her books. And oh my goodness, I am going to be nervous as wreck. But if you guys have any questions for her, we did post on Instagram. So go submit your questions there.
And whenever we release our podcast with 𝐅𝐨𝐥𝐥𝐵, we are going to have a giveaway. So keep an eye on that. So make sure you're following us on Instagram so you don't miss out on that amazing giveaway. And like Pink said, we're so excited for next week. And once again, thank you so much, Monica, for joining us today.
So if you have any questions, message us on Instagram. Our handle is Book Buzz Podcast. Hope you guys have a good week. See you guys on our next podcast. Bye.
Bye.